promised, here's a road test video to my custom dual pass stock mount intercooler made for 3rd generation RX7s. If you've been following along, this design is 100% designed by me. This isn't something where I'm taking somebody else's design, say a U-type intercooler, and just trying to make it better. You won't find another dual pass stock mount intercooler on the market. At least I haven't. If you can, please let me know, but I've done a lot of research and there's only a handful of them that I can find. One happened to be a Reddit user that reached out to me after he saw my videos and said, hey, I did something like this a while back and it's working pretty good. They are totally different designs, but they have the same concept. And there was one I found in Australia that was like for a dedicated road car. A shop had done a handful of these for their endurance races and whatnot. But as far as in the retail market, they're non-existent. If you haven't seen my intercooler video, go back and watch that. And we do have some options for FD RX7s, but they are kind of few and far between. There's a lot of used options, but as far as the good ones, it's going to be the U-type from Australia or the Night Sports from Japan. I'm not going to get into all the details with that because you can go back and watch that video. But the whole point of this video is to get real-world data to see if my concept, my personal design is actually worth something, or if it's just going to be a big pile of crap and a paperweight at the end of the day.
My God.
So this video is mainly going to be in-car footage showing you the actual temperatures and pressures under different circumstances, everything from heat soak to running through the gears under boost and cruising on the highway and just real world driving. And I'm essentially going to take the same route under 2 circumstances. One with the intercooler fan on and one with the intercooler fan off. And this will in the end tell us whether or not the whole fan design is actually worth it. That was one of the biggest features I looked for with the stock mount intercooler because of our heat soak issue, and this will actually tell us whether or not this helps combat that. Now the test drive is still a few days away. I'm recording this before the test drive, so I honestly don't know how this thing is going to perform. I did take one test drive right after I got everything installed just to make sure everything worked. I just put a new inflow radiator in there, so I want to make sure I didn't have any leaks. I wanted to make sure the pressure sensors worked for the intercooler, the inlet outlet, the temperature sensors, and I just wanted to make sure this was going to be ready for this video. So just from that short drive, I won't spoil it, but I can make some assumptions on how it's going to perform under different circumstances, but I didn't really put it through any tests. It was a short drive just to test functionality. What you see in this video is going to be my first personal experience under all these circumstances, and it's going to be fully transparent for everybody to see. You're going to have the data right here and decide for yourself whether or not this thing works. Which brings me to the next challenge. Doing the research, you can't really find much information on testing intercoolers, at least to the extent that I'm doing here. I purposely added bungs in this intercooler so I can test the efficiency of the intercooler and back up any claims I may make. I just let the data talk for itself. I'm not one to just make blatant claims. I'd rather just show you the proof of something. Here it works. The biggest problem is when people are reading intake temperatures, it's typically through the Power FC. And unless they've updated their intake air temperature sensor to something that's fast responding, they're using the factory one, which is prone to heat soak, and you're just not going to get the best data out of it. And the proper way to measure it is going to be in the inlet and the outlet of the intercooler, because then you're just focusing strictly on the intercooler and isolating anything else that may have an effect of it. So at least for my use case, I can look at my design, look at the data and say, yes, this intercooler is this efficient under these circumstances, and feel good or really bad about myself about the design. If anybody has any of this data for measuring the intake air temperature before and after the intercooler so we can compare, that would be amazing. Especially if you have one of the U-type intercoolers, Night Sports, or one of the Australian ones. Then we have a direct comparison of an actual stock mount intercooler to compare the efficiency of a one large single core versus 2 cores stacked onto each other. I don't want to make this video too long. There's going to be plenty of driving and let you guys see the numbers firsthand. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Alright, here we are up to temp. This is the temperature right now, 87 degrees. Feels like 89. Just a few degrees above ambient. So I wanted to show the effect of the radiator fans on the intercooler. With the fan on, that helps combat the heat soak, and that was totally expected. This is with the intercooler fan off, and we'll see just how fast these temperatures rise. Turn on my fan through the switch here. We're seeing some climbing. You only see so much at idle, but once you start putting a little bit of heat from the turbos too, because right now, since there's no air moving over the core, we're just heating up that core more and more and more. Even if it doesn't go above, 135 or so, the whole core is going to be that temperature. Whereas when the radiator fan is running, we're pulling cool air over this core. You can see this is just steadily rising. And we didn't see it rise this fast when we got off the highway and parked and idled. So, the bulk of your intercooler heating comes from the radiator fans blowing directly on it. And you can see we're still kind of climbing. So that's the effect of the radiator fans just sitting there heating up your stock mount there. You can see temperature starting to cool down here. I'll give it some RPM, that way the cool fluid will cycle through and you'll see the temperatures drop, showing that the radiator fans are on now. There you go. So we're still just soaking that intercooler. Here are some example comparisons I found, but there are too many variables involved, such as turbo, boost being run, ambient air temperature, and intake placement. Turbos have different efficiency ranges, and if operating out of their efficiency, they will generate more heat. We will dive deeper into this in the next intercooler video. If you have good, provable data for comparison, please reach out and share it so I can use it to compare and contrast. Based on these worst-case numbers, I have observed anywhere from 63 to 73% efficiency from this core depending on heat soak conditions. Remember, the sensor placement is in the hottest part of the intercooler, so the overall temperature numbers should be lower than tested, which would mean the true efficiency should be a bit higher than we are showing. Even with this worst case, it performs well, but I am also working on solutions to make this even more efficient. Anything above 60% has historically been considered acceptable for air-to-air intercoolers. Stay tuned for a deep dive into these results with plans to address heat soak even more, and let me know what you think about my DP stock mount intercooler.